The Stargazing Fox, a cozy bedtime story for adults. Ash the fox had been running all day. His paws carried him back and forth from one errand to the next. There were projects at work, tasks that needed finishing, and a list of responsibilities that never seemed to end. By the time the sun began to set, Ash felt as though he'd spent the entire day chasing his own tail. After work, he hurried to his kids' baseball game. He sat on the bleachers, his body there but his mind still tangled in the day's busyness. When his child scored a point, he nearly missed it, his eyes glazed with fatigue. His wife gently nudged him, and he blinked back to the present. Quickly, he pasted on a proud smile, clapped his paws together, and cheered as loudly as he could. His child looked up and beamed, and Ash felt a small pang in his chest. He was so tired and distracted that he hadn't really been there. That evening, when the house had settled into silence, the phone rang. It was his father, Cedar. "Still on for stargazing this weekend, son?" Cedar asked warmly. Ash closed his eyes and suppressed a groan. Every summer since he was a small pup, his father had taken him stargazing. It had been one of the highlights of his childhood, the two of them lying side by side under the vast, endless sky. But now, as an adult with work and family pulling at him from every direction, it felt like one more thing on his already crowded schedule. For a moment, Ash almost said no. He thought about sinking into the couch, letting the glow of the television wash over him, forgetting about everything for just a little while. But something inside him stirred, a whisper of a thought. How many more times will I get to do this with Dad? So instead, Ash forced a smile into his voice. "Of course, Dad. I wouldn't miss it." When the weekend came, Ash packed his bag and joined his father on the trail. As they walked, each step forward was also a step back in time. Memories came flooding into his mind. There was a crooked fence they used to climb as pups. They would see who could balance on it for the longest. The fence led up to a sturdy oak tree, which still had the remains of their old treehouse. On the day they built it, his sister and brother argued over who got to hammer next. They got into a tug of war over the nail and hammer. Next thing you know, the nail went flying through the air and landed in the grass. We all spent forever searching for it, he thought. The memory made him chuckle, the chaos, but also the laughter of that day. Once they finished that treehouse, it became a cherished fort for years to come. They would read books, play tag, and pretend they were living in a castle on the clouds, or sailing through the ocean on an old wooden ship. And next to the treehouse, hanging on one of the sturdy branches, was the tire swing, where Dad would push them as high as the clouds. Or at least, it felt that way. They strolled past the treehouse and into a meadow nearby. Cedar walked beside him, steady and unhurried, just as he always had. Sometimes they talked, and sometimes they just smiled at each other knowingly. The meadow was speckled with wildflowers, cerulean blue, periwinkle, deep red, butter yellow, and white. The fresh aromas filled the air. Many summer evenings, they would wait for the fireflies to emerge in this meadow, and chase them until their paws ached. Beyond the meadow was a shallow stream. Here, Cedar had taught Ash how to swim and how to catch fish. He remembered the light glimmering on the water and the silver fish dancing. The first time he caught one in his paws, it was so slippery that he was jumping all over the stream, the fish slipping out of his hands and flying up into the air again and again, while Cedar lay on the bank in the shade, laughing so hard he was rolling on the ground. As they entered the forest, the smell of the pine trees stirred something deep inside him. Memories of simpler days, when his only worry had been getting a taste of dessert before his siblings ate it all. They trekked through the forest for quite some time, until finally reaching their familiar hilltop just in time to witness the sunset. And as they set up camp, twilight settled in, the world dimmed, colors softened, and stars began to peek out from hiding. They built a welcoming fire and roasted a few berries. The crackling flames cast warm light across their fur and a nearby tree, where initials were etched into the bark, Ash and Cedar Holloway. He ran his paws over the letters. They tied a rope between the two trees and draped a quilt over it for their tent. A quilt Ash's mother had sewn long ago with careful stitches and fading colors. When the camp was ready, they climbed the hill and settled into the grass. Above them stretched the night sky, deep, endless, and shimmering with stars. Cedar began pointing out constellations. "There's the hunter," he said softly, "and the bear, and over there, the twins." His voice was calm and steady. Ash let the low vibrations of his father's voice wash over him. Then, suddenly, streaks of light darted across the sky, bright and quick. They were gone in the blink of an eye, but they left his heart feeling warm, like a little gift from the universe that you could easily miss if you weren't looking. And he thought, "I'm glad I came tonight. This is where I'm supposed to be." As he lay there, Ash thought about the other metaphorical shooting stars in his life, the small fleeting glimmers of joy. He thought of how his wife and he used to wake each morning, paws touching, faces nuzzling for a tender moment before the day began. Lately, he'd been too rushed and tired, and that simple ritual had faded away. He thought of his children's laughter, their bright voices filling the house, the way his daughter never missed a chance to blow the seeds off a dandelion puff. Pure wonder, pure presence. He had been working so hard to provide a secure and happy life for his family, but lately, he'd put so much energy into his job that he didn't have any energy left at home. What good was all his effort if he didn't take the time to enjoy the life he was building? How much money did you really need to make meaningful memories? And kids grew up surprisingly fast. Ash turned to his father, who was still gazing up at the sky with the same quiet awe he always had. Cedar's old eyes reflected the stars, filled with childlike wonder that had never dimmed. His father had always been there. So many precious memories. And in that moment, Ash understood. This trip wasn't just about stargazing, it was a reminder to slow down, to be present, to never lose that sense of wonder, no matter how old he got, no matter how busy life became. Ash let out a long, slow breath. He felt the tension of the week finally ease from his shoulders. The stars above him seemed brighter, the night air cooler, the fire warmer. And Cedar smiled knowingly, looking over with those wise, yet vivacious eyes. Ash had the feeling that somehow his father had known what he needed all along. The end.